Good evening. Welcome into another edition of the Cavalier Connection podcast. I'm your host, Jack Lowe, joined as always by my dad, Jeff Lowe. I'll get to him in just a moment, though. Really quick, we want to remind you this episode is brought to you by A Squared Pizza. If you need your food, if you need to order some food for tomorrow night, Monday Night Football, some pizza, you got some great Detroit-style pizza over there at A Squared. Be sure to go check them out. Give them a call, 434-465-2186. Again, that's 434-465-2186. They got the best Detroit-style pizza in Charlottesville. Go ahead and give them a call. Get your food for Monday Night Football. The Who's are on the road against Louisville next Saturday. Maybe you want to order it for that, and you can watch it on TV and have your Detroit-style pizza there. With that being said, that's going to lead us into our Mincer's Moment of the Week. I'm not going to give it an explanation. I'm not going to give you a name. I'm just going to play this video. You're going to watch, and you're going to enjoy. Your Mincer's Moment of the Week going to Jason Pavard, who got the game-winning interception in double overtime, which was the final play that led to the field storming. Not to mention Pavard also had a big play early in the game when FSU was threatening in UVA's red zone to potentially score their first touchdown. He batted a ball down by Castellanos and picked it off himself. What did he have to say after the game?
He's done so well.
Have you ever made a play like that early when you knocked down that ball and catching it?
No, so that was the first time that ever happened.
And what was it was really early in the game, but what was that celebration like running back to the sideline? When they're in the red zone, they're getting ready to score, their explosive offense, you make that play and you're running back to the sideline to celebrate.
Oh, man, it's just a real feeling. You know, you see the crowd turning up with you, lights flickering on and off. You know, these are games you dream of, so any play you make is like, oh, yeah, that's legendary, for sure.
There's been a lot of doubts, whether it's fans, whether it's non-UVA fans, about the secondary of this team. And while it was a high-scoring game, you guys made stops when it mattered, and, you know, you came through in the end. Right. What do you have to say about that?
You really can't pay attention to the media. You know, it'll take you on an emotional roller coaster. Like, 1 minute they're like, oh yeah, we loved it, and then the next minute it's like, oh man, coach needs to get a whole new secondary and things like that. So I really try to stay away from things of that sort and just stay focused on the task.
What's it like when you have 10,000-something students running your way, rushing the field? Where did you run when they started rushing the field? How was the celebration like?
I caught the ball and hit the ground, so I didn't get a chance to get up and run. So they all like trampled on top of me and stuff like that. So it was crazy, but it was fun for sure.
Defensive back for the University of Virginia, Jason Pavard, post-game, as he's our Mincer's Moment of the Week. Made the play in the first quarter. Florida State getting ready to score their first touchdown, momentum. Bats the ball down, catches it, falls to the ground, and makes the game-winning play, picking off a ball in the UVA end zone in double overtime. I have a whole spiel I'm going to go on, but before I do that, it'd be a shame for me not to introduce my co-host, my dad, tonight. Dad, how are we doing tonight?
Well, doing great. It was a great Friday night for sure.
Unfortunately, Jay couldn't be with us tonight, but just know Jay has a
He
lot
may
of
pop
strong
in.
too. He might pop in.
He may
We'll
pop
see.
in at some point.
If he pops in, we'll go to him for sure. With that being said, though, I want to just dive in. So, UVA comes into this game unranked. They face number 8 in the country, FSU at home. 30th anniversary of the 1995 win. And not only that, if you really think about it, 20th anniversary of beating them in 2005 as well. And so it just seems like anytime FSU comes into town, there's a little magic in the air when they're ranked inside that top 10. UVA gets off to a fast start, 14-0. FSU scores 21 unanswered. And it was a battle to the death in regulation, overtime, double overtime. And the University of Virginia gets it done. I'll say this. I've had a lot of belief in this program in the Elliott tenure to begin with, but I've had a lot of belief in this program coming into this season. I kind of stressed about this game all week because I thought they could win. I didn't know how they could, and the Who's proved a lot of people wrong Saturday or Friday night. They got done what a lot of people thought couldn't be done. They proved a lot of Coach Elliott haters wrong. And now when you stare down this schedule, you've got the toughest game on the schedule left at Louisville next Saturday. And Duke, Virginia Tech, Wake, at Cal. Sounds to me like it's kind of some easy games on the schedule left. It's very early.
Don't call those names.
It's
Don't call
very
that
early.
easy.
It's very early. But when you look at it now, the University of Virginia is ranked number 24 in the country. Louisville is the first school receiving votes. So you're basically staring down a ranked matchup next Saturday at 3:30, either on ESPN2 or ACC Network. And we said coming into Friday night, if Virginia could just find a way to get one of those games, and they did, and they got the big one. They beat a top 10 FSU team. So now you go on the road to play Louisville. Some high expectations for this program. Let's see, where are we going to dive first, Dad? What? Talk to me about that game day atmosphere. You challenged specifically the crowd to show up. You challenged the student section to stay to the second half. You challenged the fans to completely show up. And in my opinion, to UVA standards, they did.
Yeah. No. Well, first of all, real quick, we can't be looking ahead like that at those games. We don't consider anything easy. We got to take it 1 week at a time, and Louisville's next. But the schedule, but the atmosphere was great. I thought that we got there. We parked at Fontaine. Me, Jay, and both our kids, Mason and Jayton. We hopped on the shuttle, took the shuttle in, had a great conversation with a couple listeners of the show in the back of the bus, which was pretty cool. We get to the stadium, and we got the opportunity to meet up with one of our friends, Steve Brindle, from the former Who baseball player who writes articles for the website, and at his tailgate. And then we went in the west lot entrance, and we are in the cheap seats. We're in the 500s. And one thing that I thought was extra smart of Virginia is they had staff right there on that ramp handing out tickets. If you're going to the 500s, would you like to go to the lower bowl? They gave us 4 tickets down into the lower bowl, section 109. They wanted that lower bowl filled, and they did a great job. The atmosphere was outstanding. And so we were right in the heart of the Florida State group, and we heard a lot of the whoa, whoa, whoa with the chops. The tomahawk chops were going. But we had a great group of Virginia folks around us as well. So atmosphere was outstanding. I thought the students really showed up. They showed out.
They stayed.
What's that?
They stayed to the second half.
They stayed. I do want to mention after the game, and we were on the field. There's pictures online of all of us out there, but we talked to the receiver Edrin, and he said, this was the fans did this. The fans did this. Y'all did this. Y'all got to come next game too. You got to come to the next one as well. And I know we said, and I was on, we were both on Plant the Spear, the Florida State website, and I said he wanted us to rate from 1 to 10 how confident we were Virginia could win, and I said a 4 if the fans don't show out. But if the fans show out, I give us a better than 50% chance to win, and the fans showed out. That environment was the best I've seen since 2019, and 100%. And where we sat at, great seats. That Mentor's Moment video was right from where we were sitting. And you can see the devastated Florida State fans down in front of us. Couple Florida State fans right in front of us when the game ended. Super classy. Turned around, shook our hands, said congratulations. Y'all played a good game. That was an outstanding game. So That was pretty cool. So starting at the environment, I thought the environment was great.
The environment was great. It was the best since 2019. It's not close, and it was the best attended game since 2023, the opening game against JMU, which was the first game post tragedy. It was in the 50,000s. But yes, the attendance was great, but what was better is the fans, the way they reacted. They were loud. You would have thought that it was a sellout crowd with how loud the stadium was. When you pan around the stadium after Virginia scored a touchdown during the UVA chants, that is the loudest and best I've ever seen that. When the lights are going out and the entire stadium in unison doing the UVA was incredible. The crowd was loud. Sons of Saturday, you can go ahead and nitpick us. Oh, 10,000 unsold tickets. Oh, 10,000 unsold tickets. Forget about the 10,000 unsold tickets because I'll tell you this. Number one, it's a step in progress. And number two, Virginia took down a top 10 team in its own house. Virginia Tech failed to take down an unranked Old Dominion team in your house. So I don't want to hear it. Virginia got the W. And I like that you say that. Who's Odom? Somebody else in this room is not getting his voice back quite yet. You still fighting through that, huh?
Yeah, no, I've this is best my voice has been. I was struggling to talk yesterday and this morning, in the same boat. And also, we don't even need to waste any time on Virginia Tech. We don't even need to think about them. And Who's Odom also has said, reminded me of the '90s. That's exactly what I said. Back in the '90s when those crowds were electric in there when all those big teams came to town, and even when we defeated Florida State in that famous game in 1995. So crowd was outstanding.
So enough about the atmosphere, enough about the crowd, and it truly was incredible. I'm not trying to bypass that. It was an incredible atmosphere. But let's talk about the game. Virginia starts out 14-0, and I'll immediately say this. Florida State 110% shot themselves in the foot all night long, but especially in that first quarter. And this is what good teams do. Good teams take advantage of those mistakes. When you look in years past at Coach Elliott's teams, Virginia is the one making the mistakes. They're shooting themselves in the foot. And anytime another team does shoot themselves in the foot, they don't take advantage. Florida State shot themselves in the foot. They have the early fumble. Virginia gets on it. They had the second one that got called back, but Virginia was all over that too. Have a couple holding penalties that brought them back to 3rd and longs in their first possession. And, the offense took over. First touchdown, Chandler Morris finds Sage Ennis in the end zone. And Chandler Morris was outstanding. He was really good. He had 3 interceptions. Two of them really. The second one that was tipped wasn't really his fault. And say what you want about the third one. In late game situation, he's just trying to make.
So Jack, his sound has gone out. So I'll continue while his sound goes. He gets his sound fixed. But I thought Chandler Morris played well. Throwing those 2 interceptions early, and for him to come back and play strong the way he did, and he didn't play scared. But like Jack said, recovering that fumble, going up 14-0. The place was electric. And then, Florida State finally gets down there and gets points and scores a touchdown. And then, we ended up giving up 21 straight to be down 21-14. And I'm like, oh, my God, here we go again. The Florida State fans in front of us, this game's over. We're stepping on their neck. They were just celebrating like the game was over. And so, and I can't lie, I was feeling the same way. And right there before the half when Chandler Morris threw that ball to Trell, what unranked team wins against a ranked opponent with the turnovers we had? And very accurate. Before the game, and Jay had said he thought we had to be +2 in the turnover battle, and we got +2 at one point, and then the wheels fell off a little bit. But he threw that ball to Trell, and it looked like it was a pick 6 coming, and the ball tipped up, and Trell ended up with it, I think, 20-some yard reception. And then that handoff to Jamari Taylor, and he busted through that line. It looked like he was going to get hit for just a few yards, and next thing you know, he's gone. I think it was maybe a 28-yard touchdown run to tie the game. And, at that point, and I said this all since the game. I felt like old 20-year-old self was back. As Toby Keith says, not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. Jack, are you back?
I think I'm back. Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
Jack. Yeah, you're back.
It's frustrating.
But
Go
I,
ahead.
but I was gonna say, the amount of noise we were making from out there, and when he scored that touchdown, and I had to remind myself that I'm an older person. I have to be a little more mature about myself. But I'm like, just
Says who?
they
Says
weren't
who?
tough
You're
enough.
partying like it's 1995.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
how I was
whole
acting.
point of a 30th year anniversary, and the exact same opponent comes to town. You're supposed to party like it's 1995. So I don't know
Well,
how old you were. I know you were pretty young in 1995,
yeah,
but you
yeah,
should
I
be
was
acting the same way.
I was a senior in high school, and but
Uh,
when he ran him over, and I was letting those FSU guys know down there because they had done a lot of talking that, he just ran your guy over and took it to the house. They're not strong enough to bring him down. The one thing they always say about Jamari Taylor, and it's true this night as well, is the guy falls forward like he doesn't typically take a loss. So going into the half at 21 all, I was thrilled, to be honest. I'm like, it's a tie game, even though after all had happened, we're right there in the game. And Jack, if you want to take back over.
Yeah, really quick. It was so big for Virginia to score before the end of the half, and I tweeted that. I said, if Virginia wants to win this football game, they have to score a touchdown before the half is over. And then they could not let FSU score with the 47 seconds that they had to drive down the field. And they didn't. They tied it up. We were tied 21-21 going into that second half. But my point is the offense looked good. I mean, Chandler Morris, I think one thing that got to him, in my opinion, is the fact that he's been he's been used to playing these lackluster power forward defenses or William & Mary defense that he kind of thinks he can thread the needle a little more than he can against the Florida State defense. I think that's all that happened on the first interception. He tried to direct traffic, and this is a much more very good defense. Now I'll say this: the second interception wasn't his fault. That doesn't change the fact that I don't know if it was the best read. It was a great throw that saved him because there was coverage all over in that situation. Now, it was a great throw, and that interception wasn't his fault at all. He had other open players. I think against like a William & Mary, against a Stanford, he can fit that in way more easily. But you still saw Chandler Morris as if he was playing against William & Mary and Stanford. The balls he threw to Terrell Harris, to Cam Ross all night was incredible. And he found Dakota Twitty. I love to see Twitty get involved. Dakota Twitty was getting involved all night long. No big chunk play, but he had a couple, small catches here and there that got some very impactful yards. And, Ball Hawk talked about it on his podcast. Virginia ran their offense like they've been all season, running their simple mesh concept. And a lot of Florida State fans came into this game. They're just running a mesh. They're just running two drags. It should be easy to stop. It's easy to say that, but can you stop it? And Florida State could not stop this Hoos offense after that first half. And they kept going. And Virginia's defense, I had a lot of doubts. I really did. And Virginia's defense, while there was a lot of points scored, they got all the stops they needed. They made the stops when it mattered, and it was outstanding. So I'll say this about Coach Rudd and the defense really quick. Virginia hasn't really sent pressure all year. They've been bringing 4. They sent a lot more pressure against Florida State, which I love to see. We got to Castellanos. We were breathing down his neck when we weren't getting to him. Had the pressure there. I want to mention Mitchell Melton had a couple very impactful plays I think it was the beginning of that second half is when he had 2 big tackles in a row to keep Florida State from getting first downs, and that led to the missed field goal that Florida State had. And then also I want to mention this guy's name. And let's talk about that really quick. Drake Metcalf held it down. How about that? Potentially the best player on the Virginia offensive line, Brady Wilson, down. So Drake Metcalf has to move to center. And then you got to shift everybody. Wiggy comes in for the first time all season to play at right guard. The offensive line was incredible. Incredible. There really wasn't much pressure at all for Chandler Morris. All he had to do was pick apart the Florida State defense. We said if they give him time, he will pick them apart. And he did just that. So great comment from Shift God. Absolutely. Drake Metcalf held it down. A great game from him. But as I was saying, I want to mention this guy's name because we got a little bit of sound from him as well. Jameer Carter holding it down on the Virginia defensive line, had a couple nice tackles, and he's just developed into such a juggernaut, as we like to call him. So let's hear what he had to say post game against Florida State.
Not staying complacent. We're not getting complacent. I think we have to stay hungry and motivated, like we've been all year. That's a challenge of its own. We was in a similar goal last year when we started the season off well. So just learn from our mistakes last year and move forward.
We talked about before the season at ACC kickoff how many pieces was brought in from the transfer portal. There's Mitch Melton, a lot of returners, Anthony Britton, Jason Hammond, and I'd say, in my opinion, it took a couple weeks for you guys to mesh together, get some success, and you've shown growth between the William & Mary, last week Stanford, and now. Just how have you guys meshed together? Like, how much easier has it been gelling together?
Yeah, I think every week we mesh together even more. Like you said, it's probably a challenge early on in the summer. So many guys come from so many different places. That's a challenge of its own, but we managed to improve and work together, and we plan on doing that each week.
And how much easier does that make your job when you have so many other guys that can get plugged in there? If you need a deep breath, you need to come out the game. If you're only in for one defense situations, how much easier is it?
Yeah, I think it's good for everybody, not just me. Years past, I'll probably have to be out there, an entire drive, every play almost. It feels like it. But, now it's like, maybe I only get 2 reps and then someone else comes in, and they're really productive. So, I think it just makes everyone better in the room.
And what's it like when you have 10,000 some students storming your way, and where do you run? How was that celebration?
Yeah, no, it's awesome. That's just a summary of all the hard work that we put in tonight.
I want you to hang on to right before that last question, what we were talking about with the amount of people that was brought into this defensive line and the returners, because it seems like something small, but that matters for that defensive line. And I love Jameer Carter to death. He's not a pass rusher. He's huge. He's a run stopper. He's so good on the interior defensive line against the run. And having that added depth where you can plug other guys in, you can plug in like a Jason Hammond, and Anthony Britton, a Hunter Osborne, to be in the pass rush and the interior defensive line. And even guys like Danny Rickert during the nickel packages will come into the interior defensive line too. So you have Jameer Carter in that first and second down. What I'm saying is it really is impactful having all that extra depth, because you keep guys fresh and you're not heavy breathing all the way up and down the field all game long. It's so impactful having all that added depth. And who's Odom? My hopes dropped a little twice on Friday. 1, Wilson out. 2, Clary ejected. Next man up. Wow. I'll tell you what, that Clary, I don't know what they were saying on the broadcast. Obviously, we can't hear that. But did I think it was targeting? Probably. I'm not an expert because there's so many different rules. What I'll say is, though, if you watched last night, the Penn State-Oregon game, there was an ejection, or no, there was a called targeting that was called back that looked very similar, and they didn't call it. But with that being said, it hurt. I'll tell you what, seeing Clary having to get disqualified, you know how badly he wants to be out there. I don't think there's anybody on that Virginia roster that cares more about being out there on the field than Antonio Clary.
I was going to mention, though, he did come back out for the celebration on the field.
So,
that was awesome to see.
So I'll say this. Not that I'm trying to snitch or anything. I don't know what the rules are. Clary never left the field. He was on the field the entire game. He was on the sideline. You could see him running out to give high fives to his defense after every possession. And he was out there the entire overtime. I assume that you had to go in the locker room because that's what it's always been, but he was out there. So I don't know if that's allowed to happen, but there's nobody that wants to be on that field more than Antonio Clary. There's nobody that cares about that program out of the roster more than Antonio Clary. And that hurt my soul seeing him get ejected. Yes, the O-line was very dominant. It was very good. And that's what you want to see. You have that offensive line go against a team like Florida State. They hadn't been tested. NC State's not a real test. When they play like that against the Florida State and Florida State athletes.
They did give up another Calandria sack, though. Chandler stepped out of bounds early again for one. For one of them, that was given up. He didn't throw it away. But no, that was that Wilson out, of course, was a big deal when we found that out before the game, and then when Clary got ejected, and we know the amount of concerns we had if we were going to be able to hold things down in the secondary, and it's like, oh gosh, we were hopeful with Clary playing it was going to help. And I thought that the defensive secondary, I thought the defense played pretty well. I know there were a lot of points scored, but
that's an FSU team.
Considering the team they were playing against, I feel like if they play that way against pretty much anybody else on their schedule, there's the success is coming, and there was growth on the defense. And like you said, or Jameer said in his interview, the meshing of the defense, I think it's only going to continue to improve. So no, I wasn't disappointed in the defense. Even the touchdown that tied the game in regulation, I thought the defense was perfect on that. We were on Castellanos. He threw off his back foot. He dropped one in, a diving catch in the end zone. Like, what more can the defense do? And then the other thing with Florida State, really, Castellanos threw for 254 yards. 147 of those yards were to Deuce Robinson. That guy's going to be playing football on Sundays. I mean, that dude's a monster. The defense stayed with him for pretty much every time. He just made plays. And what did we got here? Only 7 points given up in the second half until that last TD tied the game.
They stepped up when they needed to.
So I mean, the concerns were coming in. It's like, can we score with them? Are we going to get enough stops? So what was your thought, Jack, when we get the ball first and we have to punt?
I was worried. I tell you, and I said this. I knew it was going to be a shootout, and I know there was a lot of stops in the second half for the Virginia defense, but I knew it was going to be high scoring. And when Virginia went to punt, I was like, Florida State's going to score on 3 plays, and then the game's going to be over. The students are going to be walking out already. I was stunned when there was 3 defensive stops in a row. I couldn't believe my eyes. And then finally, Sage Ennis got on the board for the Hoos. And so I'm thinking, man, we kept preaching about taking that over. That over's not looking too good right now. And my God, was that wrong? The scoring exploded after that. And really not in a good way for Virginia, because Florida State went 21 unanswered very quick, like boom, 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 really quick. So I was worried when Virginia went to punt. I really thought, like, if they wanted to win that game, they had to get on the board first, and I was wrong. But yeah, only 7 points given up, so that was a big deal. But I also want to mention, and I might I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna share my screen to show this tweet that I wanted to bring up. Let's see if this works. I want to show this tweet here. Does it look okay? Yeah, you can see it. It's hard to see, but FSU 4- and 5-star players has 37 of them on their roster. Virginia has 6. That's out of high school. Coming out of high school, they're star recruits. That's what shows the coaching. And I know it's still a bit early in the season and whatever. That shows coaching. The fact that FSU has all that talent on the field, and Florida and Virginia has a lot of talent too. Don't get me wrong. Virginia has a lot of talent on the field. But when you have that much of a difference in the talent you get out of high school, number one, it says something about your coaching and development, because this Virginia team is playing like they have multiple 4s and a couple 5-stars on their team. And it just shows the schemes schematically, and everything you're doing in the offseason is paying out. And now Virginia's competing. And again, we'll see how good FSU is. They got a big game at Miami next week, but they beat Alabama. Alabama turned around and beat Georgia. But I don't want to look too much into that, because college football is a funny sport, because Georgia Tech almost lost to Wake. Virginia Tech beat NC State. It's a whole mess. Every fiber of my being thought FSU was going for 2.
I'm with you, Shift God. I was scared to death. Yeah. When they brought that kicking unit on, I was so happy because I was like, oh, God. And then when they kicked it, I thought, I was like, okay, we're going to go down and win the game here in regulation. Of course, we threw the interception.
So you wanted to make another comment about every fiber in your body. How about in overtime? and I know there's some concerns with the play calling, but when Will Bettridge trots out to kick, I don't remember if it what the distance was. It might have been.
I'll tell you exactly what it was, but it wasn't. It was not a crazy long one, but it was 39 yards.
And I 100% thought he was missing. I've got to be honest. I love Will Bettridge to death, man, but he's been too inconsistent. There's no way of guaranteeing a make there. And I'm thinking, man, this is how Virginia fought all this way, and they're going to lose because of a missed field goal. Will Bedford stepped up and he made a very clutch kick, and you can't take that away from him. I'll tell you what, that is as big as it gets. And I really hope that builds confidence for him in the future. So when we get to these next couple of weeks, he's just booming the ball through. He's not thinking about it. And
he can be a good kicker. He can be a good kicker. He missed that short one the week prior, and then even the one he made. I mean, it looked really bad. But I'm like Shift God. I was shaking in my boots too. I was disappointed. And so, real quick before we get to that one, I want to mention, when we had the ball with a chance to run I thought we got that last stop in regulation, and I said, one first down might take two. This game's over. And the way we had moved the ball in that 3rd and 3 at midfield, I couldn't believe we just handed it off. I thought we would have, and I'm just sitting here on the other side of the screen, so my opinion don't really matter. And there's no expertise here, but I thought we'd at least an opportunity where Chandler could roll out himself. He could hand it off. He could do it himself, or he could toss one. And when they stuffed that, I'm like, crap, I just really felt like we're going to lose. The students were on the hill preparing to charge the field, and then that happened. And then in overtime, we hold them to a field goal, and then I thought we were really conservative with the football. When we had an opportunity, I thought we were going to go win the game. And we've talked about this on the air. It's been quite a few episodes ago, but we all make our final score predictions. And if you get it right, you win. Everybody has to pay $20 to the person. It's never happened until last year, first game of the season. I actually got the score right in Virginia's opener against who did we play to open last year? Richmond. So Jay's final score is 41-38 Virginia, and now we're down 38-35 with the ball. I'm like, and he didn't even think about it. I said, Jay, you're going to win the 20s, because I thought they were going to go score a touchdown. And then we just were so conservative. Who's Odom? You're absolutely right. We were so conservative, and we ended up having to kick that field goal. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And then he makes the kick, and now we got the ball. And then we did what I thought we should have done prior, and we got aggressive and went and scored a touchdown.
So let me say this about that too. For any of you FSU fans or any of you national media that wants to come after Virginia and come after the ACC because the referees let Virginia get their team back on the field because they came out in the field goal, whatever. First of all, I'll say this. I do wish Elliott knew the situation better, but forget that. It doesn't matter. No matter what you say, that does not matter. You know why? Because Florida State didn't score a touchdown after. So even if they scored the touchdown, then maybe it matters. Even if it does matter, if the refs did decide to throw the delay of game flag, Virginia would have just taken a timeout. You get a timeout per overtime. So if they're getting ready to throw the delay of game flag, Coach Elliott would, timeout. I want to change teams that's on the field. And it doesn't matter anyways, because Florida State never found the end zone again anyway. So I don't want to hear from that. You were going to say something?
No, that's right. And then also I thought both teams played very clean football. There was very few penalties on both sides.
Yes.
There were very few penalties. I mean, very few false start or
big
penalties.
one on Florida State at the end.
I thought that, however, I want to say when it was 3rd down and goal, maybe when we were ahead in regulation, and they had to score to tie the game to get it to overtime, I thought there should have been a grounding call. I thought we had Castellanos in trouble, and he never left the pocket. He threw the ball as far as he could have hit the goal. It hit the crossbar, and I thought that should have been a grounding, which would have been like a 10-yard loss, and then it would have been 4th and 21. Cardiac Who says, I thought there were a few missed holding calls.
There always will be, and I didn't catch all of them because I gotta be honest, there was so much going on Friday night. That was the last thing I was looking for was missed holding calls. There always will be. I'm sure there was a lot of impactful ones for sure.
There definitely was one down by us that I really thought they missed. They missed a holding call that turned into a big play for Florida State. I can't recall. down or distance or anything like that. You know, we watched that game from the stadium. I've watched most of the game on TV since, but you know, when you're watching from the stadium, you don't have any. The commentary is us as we talk to each other. So, but and it's super exciting. You're screaming the whole time. If any of you are watching and you were at the stadium, you know, type in or tell us how your experience went. But you know, when we got to overtime and we had to kick that field goal, like you said, Jack, I was sure we were. I can't imagine having to leave that place off of a loss after the way that game went.
Not only a loss, but the way if it's off a loss off a missed field goal, that's the way you lose. I'd be sick. But
yeah,
you know,
I felt like so all game long. You know, I didn't know if we were going to win or lose, but it was a great game. I thought Virginia played really well.
unbelievable
And I
game.
felt like, you know, we can't have I don't like moral victories, but if we had lost the game, just, you know, playing the game, I would be like, I think Virginia football's back. I still think Virginia football's back. However, once you get down to that point where we had a chance to put the game away and take knees, and then we handed that ball off and didn't get the first down, and then they got the ball and went and scored the touchdown, then, oh gosh, the devastation would have been so much more. I can't imagine.
So with the exception of that, and with the exception of the weak play calling in overtime, I thought Des Kitchens called a really good game.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, in that third or fourth, I think in the second half, those two drives where Virginia ran the ball almost every single play, incredible, first of all. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Des Kitchens continued to run the ball, and there was nothing FSU could have done about it. That was some of the best running of the football I've ever seen in Virginia history, in my lifetime, that is. And then, yes, that absolutely set up later to get into the end zone when you have Chandler Morris, who ran for 3, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
His legs were unstoppable. I think FSU was so afraid of, you know, his arm. They never really set contains on him. They never really had a spy. He ran all over them. He was very similar to I'm sure his stats were similar to Castellanos, maybe not as many yards, but those runs set up so big for those plays that got into the end zone, because you know they're so worried about Jamari Taylor getting into the end. They're so worried about Xavier Brown because they haven't been able to stop him all game. So it sets up for more.
It was that one drive you're talking about was 16 plays.
Yep.
And they just ran it down their throat.
Every play. There was only one pass that entire drive. One pass.
Yeah. And you know, and I told Jay, and you know, like we just said, a couple of the possessions, I thought we were too conservative in overtime the first possession, and I thought that right there at the end of regulation, we had a chance to run the clock out. I didn't care for the way we handled it, but I said, you know what? At the end of the game, I don't care about any of it, because two things: we won the game. Number two, I thought Des Kitchens did an outstanding job, and I think he's done an outstanding job all season. So, you know, I mean, offensively, what can you say? This team is electric. He did. Chandler Morris ran for only 37 yards, but 3 touchdowns. And Castellanos, he was 18 of 32 for 254, 2 interceptions into 1 touchdown, and he ran for 78 and a touchdown. But you know, Castellanos didn't impress me with so much.
Yeah, I mean, his numbers might be all right, and I'll tell you this, and it sounds pretty stupid, but it really shows you that height does matter in a quarterback, because you have that first interception. We saw this with Calandria. I hate to say this about Calandria. It's hard for him to see over the line and see people downfield. Like, yeah, it sounds stupid, but it's true. And then when you look over at NC State, and I know they just lost, but you got a quarterback like CJ Bailey who's so tall, he can see down the field. That's what makes him that much more dangerous. And Castellanos isn't anything special. He's a good quarterback. He's a good plug-in for Florida State, and he will lead Florida State to a nice season. He's not what all the hype makes him out to be. He had good numbers. He's very dangerous on the run. The best part about his game is he's able to open up that play calling for Florida State that much more to be able to run those options. And then you set up for the jump pass, which was a really good job by Florida State. That was executed. That was executed perfectly. But I'll say this. As I mentioned, Coach Kitchens called an outstanding game. I thought Coach Rudd was very good. I mentioned in my preview article against Stanford and again all season, Virginia never brought pressure. They were bringing 4 pretty much all, with the exception of a couple times they brought 5. They against Stanford on some third downs, they rolled into that nickel formation, that double mug formation where they have the linebackers rolled into the box and showing like they're going to blitz. And then they dropped back into zone coverage. Against Florida State, they brought them. They brought everybody. And that's exactly what Virginia needed. And they got in Castellano's face multiple times. And then I'll also say this, Coach Elliott coached his tail off. That is the signature win of this staff. It was, in my opinion, as well as a couple others on X, the most important game in the Elliott tenure so far and potentially of his life. And everything added up perfectly. Chandler Morris, great. Offensive line, elite. Defensive line, great. Secondary, did their job. Wide receiver room, running backs. Everybody did their job. The crowd, as Coach Elliott mentioned in his press conference, it took everybody. The crowd got involved. Everybody got involved. And it all worked to this one common goal to take down number 8 in the country. So now, number 8, Virginia's ranked number 24. They go into Louisville next week. Toughest game left on the schedule probably. We'll see how the rankings shape out over the next few weeks and who pops up. Duke might get ranked soon before we know. Virginia Tech kind of turning things around a little bit. We'll see what happens with them. But overall, you couldn't be happier. Virginia played their tails off. They earned yesterday off after having the quick, short week turnaround. And now you prepare because you get to go to war with another team that's hungry. Louisville's hungry. They're 5-0, 4-0, whatever they are. And they want it just as badly as Virginia. So that's going to be big. So we'll close it out in just a few moments. But
before I get to, I wanted to mention something about Who's Odom's comment, but I did real quick want to mention before the game, and I have no clue, and you were right there at it, Jack, when Coach Elliott had the whole team huddled up and was giving them the speech, like the Rocky speech or something. Like, I was fired up and I couldn't tell you a word he was saying, but I just knew that guy wants this game so bad.
Yep.
And I just know those guys are ready to run through a wall for that guy.
Yep. And you saw, for those of you, if you saw on my X, the Wahoo Walk, and Preston Willett said it too. Shout out to Preston from the Sabre. That is the most fired up and animated I've ever seen Elliott coming off the bus. The entire time, pumping the fist, screaming, "Let's go." And, he kind of walked by me, and I kind of ignored, and I kept filming, he was walking, and all of a sudden I hear, "Let's freaking go" in the background. I turn over, and he is pumping the fists, giving high fives to Tyler Brown, the general manager, and everybody else involved. He wanted it so bad. And that is also, I care so much about this program and for that staff. Seriously. I've been believing in this staff for the last little bit. I want him to succeed because this staff has been through so much. And to see them pull it out was something else. Coach Elliott and that staff deserves it. And I don't want to be that person who's making it only about their program, but I'm willing to say they're one of the most deserving staffs in the country to get a win like that. And now that's the turning point. You hit the turning point. So now you have this expectation for yourselves and you got to go achieve the rest of the season.
And then real quick to Who's Odom's comment. I don't know Who's Odom. Do you have season tickets? 528. You're right by us. And we weren't there for the Florida State games. We moved down, but we're 529. So, if you have season tickets, the next game, we'll have to come over to 529 and meet you, or we'll come over to 528 and meet you. I know where we were high-fiving Virginia fans around us, and we were amongst, the Tomahawk chop all night. I swear every time they got the Tomahawk chop going, I can't get the words out. The Tomahawk chop going. Something good would happen to Virginia every time. Like, it could be 3rd and 8, 3rd and 11, and they were doing this. And then the next thing you know, that's another Cavalier first down. We would get the first down. So I thought that was it's tough. I knew where we were going, and as soon as I saw the section, I was like, we're going to be over there with Florida State fans. But that's where when Jay and I were growing up, and the our friend Butch, who would take us to these games, that's where his seats were over, was in that area over there. So it's tough. But man,
So
it was
so
outstanding.
an unbelievable game. I'll close out with this. Big shout out to Florida State and Plant the Spear. Uh, uh, we were lucky enough to go on his show, and he came on our show and gave us great insight into this matchup. I first of all, I really appreciate him and the help. We've helped each other a lot. He's a great guy, very entertaining. Go check out his podcast, Plant the Spear. He does such a good job over there. I truly believe Florida State is a very good college football team, very good, and they should compete towards the top of the ACC still. They've got a huge one coming up against Miami. I think that's going to be a very telling game. Whether even if they lose, if they can at least look good against Miami. But Florida State, they're a good football team. They shot themselves in the foot one too many times, and Virginia took advantage. And with that being said, an unforgettable night. The top game I've ever been to in my life, but number one before that was the 2019 Virginia Tech game. But this is a top 10 team, and the field rushing and everything. It was just unbelievable. Obviously, I wasn't on the field, but I got video of the whole thing, just taking it all in. But an unbelievable night.
Can I mention a couple more things
Go.
about the field rush? Of course, we hit the field rush. We went on the second group. We let them do the initial rush, got some video. Kids and us, we went out there. But before that, at halftime, I did want to mention, check out on Facebook our kid. We were 7 rows in front of us or so. We're the basketball team. Our kids got pictures with the basketball team. Super gracious. Coach, I think my mind just went blank.
Pollard.
But yes, thank you. Coach Pollard was down there sitting with the basketball team. The ladies basketball team was one section over. Former football players. Got to see Pete Allen. And then on the field, we got to talk to Jameer Carter, Mikhail Boley. And shout out, I know he hasn't played at Virginia yet, but CJ Spence, who's on the roster corner from Virginia Beach, Norfolk area, who came on the show, got to talk to him, get a picture with him. Everybody was super gracious. There's pictures of Mason and Jayton all over the internet with all sorts of players. Mason decided he was going to bring home a piece of the grass from the field. I think he's going to grow our front yard into a Scott Stadium. But outstanding time. And I think that's all I wanted to mention. I did want to just mention that field rush and how gracious all the players were on the field.
For sure.
And the basketball team as well.
For sure. An unforgettable night. For those of you who were there, take that in. I'm not going to say it's the last time it'll happen in our lifetimes, but it's still such a rare, monumental thing to happen. And if you were there, take that in, because that's incredible what happened Friday night. Winning a game like that against a top 10 team, and the field rush going down as one of the greatest field rushes of all time, according to a lot of national media accounts. And an unbelievable night, unforgettable night. I didn't get home till 4:00 in the morning. It was really exciting, and then I had a volleyball broadcast the next day. But and then my man Corey, how you doing, Corey? Good to see you. How much was the fine?
$50K.
So they talked about this at ACC kickoff back in July about this exact thing, because there's a new rule saying. And here's my thing: there's no way to enforce it, because the ACC saying, "Oh, it's an honor system," no. There's no way. The rule is the fans aren't allowed to rush the field until all away players, so all FSU and players and coaches are off the field. Then you can rush. Yeah, good luck when you already have half the student body on the field just waiting for the last play to happen. So $50,000, the greatest $50,000 Virginia has ever spent. So now
there were 6 security guards, 6 at the hill, spread out. And there was about 10,000 students ready to come. There was nothing they could do about that.
Nothing you could do. So with that being said, big win for Virginia. And now you get to go on the road and play a just outside the top 25 Louisville team. A big game. You got to try and, come off this emotional win and not have a hangover. And then, you got to do your job. You set the standard now. You've shown you can do it. You've shown you can play at a high level. So now you got to continue. You got Louisville, and then you got a much-needed bye week to kind of rest up. Washington State as your final non-conference game. Then you get into full conference swing. So we'll see what the Who's can do. We'll see what Coach Elliott has to say Tuesday in his weekly press conference. Hail to the VN Sabres. There you go,
sorry.
Corey. It's funny that you're claiming Virginia now, but when Virginia was down in the dumps, you were making a lot of fun of Virginia. So,
That's all right. He can come
that's
on
all right.
board.
We'll welcome you in. We'll welcome you in, Corey. With that being said, though,
Can I just tell everybody real quick what's coming up this week? Tuesday, we interviewed Sean Curry, and we'll be playing that interview for everyone on Tuesday. Sean Curry he's a lacrosse and football recruit that committed to Virginia just recently. He's only been playing football for 1 year in high school, 4-star recruit. That's crazy stuff there. So that interview's coming, and then Thursday. We'll have a surprise guest interview. And just in case anything falls through, but I'm super excited. And then also we have some former Who football players that predate Jack a little bit, but it'll be exciting. Some former stars from Virginia, they're going to join the show here in the next couple of weeks as well. And also go to thecavalierconnection.com for our latest couple articles that were posted up today. I openly root for FSU. UVA just signs my check.
That's right. He's a UVA wise guy. He's a UVA wise. So
that's where my supervisor went to UVA wise, and Jay's brother went to UVA wise.
He's in the branch, but he doesn't. He's not a fan of the tree he's a part of.
Okay.
But yeah, go check out thecavalierconnection.com. You got 2 experience articles. And then I'll also get a recap up there probably tomorrow. We're going to actually deep dive into it because right now emotions are still high. You still can't believe it happened. But eventually we've got to be honest with ourselves and actually take a look at what happened and how Virginia can turn it into a big game coming up against Louisville. So with that being said, we appreciate all of you for tuning in. The Who's took down number 8 in the country, Florida State. They make a name for themselves on national TV, which, by the way, ESPN had to have been floating to the ratings they were getting. I mean, what a game you could have. The only game that was going on at the time on Friday night. And you get a double overtime high scoring upset. So if you're ESPN, you're loving that game. If you're a neutral fan, you love that game. UVA got their national stage that they've been wanting. They showed the world what they can do. And now they're ranked number 24 in the country, and they get to go take on a tough Louisville team on the road Saturday. So with that being said, we'll have more stuff coming out this week. Be on the lookout. But that'll wrap us up tonight. One final time. Go Who's.
Go Who's.